Hello, I'm Will Johnson. I've been studying sitting meditation practices for over 50 years now. And during that time, I've been very fortunate. I've had wonderful teachers from all the major Buddhist traditions, some of the Hindu traditions. Very grateful to all of them. Even so, I never formally affiliated myself with any one lineage or any one tradition, preferring instead to focus on the denominator common to all of them, which is the sitting posture itself. So for me, this exploration of sitting has been a vehicle to the kind of awakening I want to speak with you tonight. Now, when John first contacted me and invited me to be here to speak to you, it took me almost immediately down memory lane back to when I was, I think, probably a junior in university, and I would get visited not infrequently from an uncle of mine who is a professor of English at a nearby girls' college, where he would spend half his years in Philadelphia and the other half in Ireland, in Dublin, where he also taught in the English department at Trinity College. Because he turned out to be one of the world's foremost experts, scholastic experts, on the poetry and plays of William Butler Yeats. And it was in these early visits, my uncle would come over and see me, and we'd sit in my room, and we would inevitably get into conversations about William Butler Yeats, and that is where I first heard about Theosophy. In fact, it was probably the first understanding that there's more than meets the eye to our experience of being alive and human that I'd really ever been exposed to. And I resonated with it a lot. What I remember from those conversations with my uncle, two tenets stand out for me that my understanding are tenets that you will relate to very immediately. And the first was that there is a condition alternative to what passes as normal as human experience. It's available to every human being. And it's a condition of a mystical awakening, a mystical insight, a consciousness other than what passes as normal. In our world at large and where we spend most of our time. Now, combined with that, very, very closely linked to that, was then also this understanding that, there's something more than meets the eye. There's more to me than meets my experience of me, but there's more that meets the eye in terms of my experience of the world I live in. That in addition to this world of beyond zillions, of individual separate little objects of form, there's some kind of substratum, an underlying existential dimension, again, available to everybody. And it's as though, wait a minute, there's this unifying force that we're all privy to, that the whole universe comes out of. There is an underlying substratum of wholeness. Now, I really resonated with both of those notions, and that I found myself going down memory lane back into those experiences, the conversations with my uncle, and realizing that's what started, what I guess became the inquiry of my life. As I said, something in me deeply resonated with those understandings, and then I wanted to experience them. I wanted to have a direct experience of what this mystical awakening was. I wanted to have a direct experience of what I call now the Great Wide Open. Everything, all the forms collapsing down into an experience that very real, it's very palpable, but it underlies everything. It underlies everything. It's kind of an undivided wholeness. And I like those two words. That actually comes from David Bohm, one of the 20th century's most respected quantum physicists. Bohm, I guess towards the end of his life, came to understand that the whole of our inquiry, scientific inquiry, needed an adjustment. And he praised the scientists for addressing the infinitesimally small and the astronomically large. And then he said, but gang, that only accounts for half of what reality is. And for Bohm, there's this whole other dimension, almost like a substratum, out of which all the millions, billions of individual forms and objects spring. And his definition for the universe was that it is an undivided wholeness of flowing motion. And later, in our time here together, I'm going to come back to that, okay? What I thought I'd do today is I want to share a couple of very simple, I don't know what you'd call them. They're little, in common parlance, they might be called physiological hacks. Or I think of them as somatic koans. Koans in the Rinzai school of Zen, they'll use these phrases, these questions, all linguistic, and sit and ponder it and ponder it and ponder it, ponder it. This is a very different kind of koan. We don't engage it with the thinking mind, but with the feeling body. And you'll see that the three things I want to share with you today, very simple. We can all experience them as I give you the instructions. They're all shifts to the physiology of the body somehow. And this was probably my major revelation, that the awakening, that those first little seeds on the conversation of Theosophy with my uncle, the awakening that kindled, it's a shift in experience and incarnated in a body, and this particular body at this point, here's where it has to be experienced, okay? There's three of them that I want to share with you. And the first one I want to dive right into is how we're breathing, My understanding at this point is that how I breathe determines the quality of awareness or consciousness that naturally comes through, okay? Now, being honest, if we look at ourselves, myself included, and when I'm in the consciousness of what passes as normal, kind of lost in thought, language going through, eyes not focused, and definitely a sense of me. Okay, me, Will, this guy that lives in this body. Look, there's nothing wrong with that, but as folks like you know, that's not the only game in town. There is this whole other dimension of enlightened consciousness that we can open ourselves to. Okay? Rumi makes a very beautiful distinction between those two, what passes as normal and what passes as altogether natural, but kind of exalted. He calls the first the consciousness of separation, me. I is an extraordinary demarcation of separation. Me in here, everything else out there. Okay? And again, nothing wrong with this. This is the consciousness that dominates the world of form, and we have to get good at it if we're going to function in the world of form. According to David Bohm, or the Heart Sutra that says exactly the same thing. It's not just form. There's this underlying, they call it emptiness. It's an awakened, large, spatial something that human bodies can experience. Okay? Both are there, but in what Rumi calls the consciousness of separation, I inhabit this body. What's inside is me, okay? Everything outside is other than me. That's eternal separation. Rumi tells us that, okay, but then what else exists is what he calls the consciousness of union. This is what Bohm would refer to as the undivided wholeness. This is what I remember in some of those initial conversations with my uncle, that he would express as there's some kind of interconnectedness, that everything is unified. So the first place I want to play with you here tonight is, let's just start taking a look at how we breathe. Okay? Don't change anything, just turn your attention, maybe inward, towards your breath. How are you breathing? What's breath doing right now? And don't feel you have to alter anything. Look, the consciousness of lost in thought, that passes as normal. That's one of the places we live in, within the world that we inhabit. Okay? So when I'm lost in thought, just thinking, I'll examine my breath. Let's say it by nostrils. Go ahead and do that. Okay, and I'm listening. I'm speaking right now. You folks are listening. And what almost immediately comes up is that there's not much breath. Very, very little breath at all. I joke, it doesn't even qualify as a sniff. It's kind of a place where tiny little bit of breath goes in, tiny little bit of breath goes out. And that pattern of breathing is necessary to create and get us kind of grounded in what I call the consciousness of lost in thought. It's what passes as normal. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. We have to get good at it to navigate our way through the world of form. But it's very implosive. And we're going to see later in our time together, there's great tensioning that comes into the cranium through this place of being kind of, lost in thought, lost in words. Lost in words, it's like this ticker tape parade, random, unbidden thought, just passing through. And it's passing through in the form of language. And it's a voice, kind of. And who's the speaker of that voice? I am. So we all have the same name for ourselves, or certainly for this aspect of, the human condition. So what happens if we start breathing more deeply? It's getting to a point where it just seems as simple as that to me. What would it be to take a deep and full inhalation without forcing, relaxing, but just relaxing. And actually, it's when I start giving the body permission to relax that, this deeper inhalation couldn't be more natural. It just starts occurring on its own. And in this way, in a sense, what we're doing is that we're bringing breath to life. Okay? Ordinarily, normal, if I examine breath, there's hardly anything there. Okay? Here's a very different breath. I'm just bringing it to life. Rumi says that bringing breath to life in this way is the essence of every true path of spiritual awakening. The Buddha talks about a breath that you breathe through the whole body. The Buddha tells us breathing through the whole body, to breathe through the whole body. As you inhale, breathe through the whole body. As you exhale, feel the breath moving through the whole body. Now, look, this gets puzzling. I think of every 9th or 10th grade student who's completed, a course in basic anatomy or biology. They know you don't breathe through the whole body, right? Through the nose and or mouth, lungs transfer the food, it comes out. Okay, the Buddha knew nothing about this. For him, there is an experience, I believe, of such profound relaxation that when he would let go at the onset of inhalation, just let go. Oh, he could feel almost like, well, he didn't have balloons in those days either, I'm assuming, but almost for us like what if the body were a balloon, the feeling presence were a balloon, we'd be filling it full, just like a balloon. Now, if you really start examining how you breathe, it's hardly a spoiler alert. You get to a place to realize that the breath that passes as normal, that is virtually minimal, couldn't be more antithetical to what we're starting to explore here, right? But this breath that passes as normal, what I need to allow and do in my own body is get very still and very stiff, frozen, garden statue, right? I don't move much, don't have to. Okay, it's like I got a wetsuit holding me in. There's certainly no amoeba-like expansion and contraction, that could occur if you just let yourself start to breathe more deeply and relax into it as you're doing it. Now, here's another little key that you can play with, and we'll play with it right now, that I enjoy because it gives people an initial idea of, oh, maybe this is what he's getting at. And I want to mention another teacher, not a personal teacher, late 18th century Swedish, a mystic named Emanuel Swedenborg. I don't know that much about him. What I do know about him is that the citizens of Uppsala looked to him as though this guy is living in some kind of exalted, illuminated condition. Now, Swedenborg's a contemporary of Lavoisier in France, Priestley in England. That's where we start to understand what our 10th grade students know. Why do we breathe? Oxygen in the air, our most vital food and fuel. That's why we breathe. Okay. Swedenborg didn't know that any more than the Buddha would have known it. And I've always found this extremely fascinating. Swedenborg attributes much of what's happened to him to his understanding that for him, the purpose of the breath is to keep the spine in constant motion. Inhale, it's like it stretches it out. Exhale. And it doesn't even just go up and down, it kind of undulates when you really let go. Play with this. Now, this is very different from what I was just speaking about, because, go back to just kind of being sort of lost in thought. What's happening? One, you're not breathing very much, and two, your spine is not moving. Very little. Right? It's almost as though within the quality of consciousness that passes as normal, that barely breathes, the spine might as well be a column from a Roman or a Greek temple. The joints between every vertebrae of the spine are no different from joints anywhere in the body. They're there for one purpose and one purpose only. It's to move. This is not a fence post. So I'll encourage you, let's just parse this out a bit. What do you have to do? What kind of inhalation do you have to allow yourself to experience so you feel the fullness, the force of the inhalation, from the inside out, pressing into your lower back, your lumbar spine, and causing motion? What do you have to do? What do you have to allow? Keep playing with this, finding a way that your inhalation can cause maybe a lengthening, maybe an expansion. What I'm also finding is that I have to kind of rock forward a little bit on the inhale. And there it goes. The lumbar spine, it lengthens. Okay, let's talk for a moment about the diaphragm. Horizontal muscle, divides the upper torso from the lower torso. It's the primary muscle for breathing. And yet if you start examining what's happening in the middle of your body, you can visualize and then start feeling into the diaphragm itself. It does not move very much. When it could move, it's designed to expand in all directions. My wife and I lived down here in Costa Rica, and we were out on a boat a number of years ago, and we came across a school of rays, those large flat animals, and they're swimming, really magnificent to see. And I had an immediate image of, this is the perfect model for how I want my diaphragm to breathe. I can start feeling the possibility for more front and back, lateral motion through the middle of my body. And then there's motion through the very middle of my spine. Okay. Now go right up into your upper spine, the upper torso, thoracic vertebra. Breathe in such a way. Figure out how to do this. Just find it. Your body will do it. I'm having to take a really deep breath, but I can feel how that is initiating motion coming through my spine. Okay. Okay, now let's add your neck, cervical vertebra. What I'm going to have to do is sort of surrender the weight of my head at the onset of inhalation. And then everything lifts up. Okay, because so much air is coming in. And my cervical spine can move. To play with this, let's just play here for a minute or so. This notion of Swedenborg's breath is foundational for me in helping share this understanding about breathing. This is one of the first places that people can get an awareness, as I breathe in, everything moves. And as it moves, as I come out of the frozen stillness, the breath goes deeper, bringing breath to life, the essence of every true path of spiritual awakening. As you breathe in through the whole body. The Buddha is telling us, so that where I've gotten to in my exploration of this is that, breath is this force that wants to make transmitted motions through every joint in the body, move through the entire body, not unlike how a wave moves through a body of water. Or put another way, when I'm able to find that place. It's not, nothing could be more natural because it's so relaxed, so let go. Okay? When I find that place, there's this profound relaxation that occurs. And the more that the ease, because I have to let go. You know, if I'm holding here like a stone garden statue, or my spine is rigid, it's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to bring our breath to life, as Rumi is suggesting, or figuring out how to breathe through the whole body, as the Buddha is throwing out at us. And the Buddha is saying, look, figure it out. How could you breathe through the whole body? How could this possibly happen? But if you figure that out, just as how we hardly breathe creates the consciousness that passes as normal in the world at large, lost in thought, attached to the words in the mind, this breath creates its own quality of consciousness, and you start opening, mind starts dropping away, and you start opening into, this awakening that is altogether natural. It's here for every human to experience. But we have to be willing to let go of the resistance in the body and the breath, holding it back. And we have to really be willing to give ourselves permission to let our body come alive and relax. Okay? And here I want to move into the second little play for us to explore here today. We already have one clue. If I'm going to make this transition from quality of consciousness that passes as normal into, a more wide open, awakened condition. Yes, I have to open to the breath, but I also have to awaken the body. I have to relax the body and awaken its experience. So look, here's what happens. When I'm lost in thought, hardly breathing, another of the conditions that whole constellation creates is, my center of gravity is right here. And actually in a human body or in any kind of structure that's very unstable, very high center of gravity, but everything is focused right here. Here I am. And it's as though we unwittingly have to, or what accompanies that, we have to throw a shrouding blanket over the very alive sensations of our body. It's what I call the cellular shimmer. And here's what I'm getting at. Let's all do this for a moment. Yeah, go ahead and put out a hand, right hand with the palm up. Okay, and then just take a moment and turn your attention to your hand. It's okay to look at it. But as much as you're able, put your awareness right into the hand. Okay? Okay, if we were doing this live, then I would have you all, shout out what you're noticing. Here's generally the sequence that people recognize when, what is hand? What's going on? How does the hand know it exists? It's not my mind talking about a hand, or I have a vision of it, or this is what it does. No. The hand itself can only know it exists, that it's alive, through letting itself experience what it feels like. Okay? So the hand's outstretched, and what I'll often get, usually people will say, it feels heavy. Absolutely. It's sensation. There's a heaviness. Some people will say, oh, I can feel the air moving across the surface. Okay, all of this is part of it. And then people will go deeper, right into the center of the hand. And what I start getting are responses like, well, there's a kind of energy there. Okay, say more about that. What does this energy feel like? How would you describe it? And some people say, well, it's pulsing. There is a lot of movement. And then people will get down to realizing, well, wow, there's this whole universe of shimmer. What else can you call it? It's tingling. It's vibrating. It's like carbonating. You get a sense for that? You just let hand be here and welcome sensations. This is the second thing that we can do. Welcome the feeling of being a human being back from its exile in the land of the unfelt, right? Because to be up here, I had to blanket it over. Can't feel that. So the second play here is about, so bringing body back to felt life. And in truth, we can't even explore Swedenborg's breath completely without also embracing this experience, moving away from lost in thought to present in sensation. So just as there are sensations in the hand, they exist in every part of the body, down to the smallest cell. And I don't know what they are. I don't know what causes them. It may be there's so much activity constantly going on in each of our cells. Maybe we're becoming aware of the feeling presence of the cellular dance, or it's even smaller than that. I have no idea what it is. I just know that it is. And in this shift from conventional, ordinary human experience to this awakening, palpable, real, experiential awakening, breath has to open and body has to come present. Now look, these sensations exist everywhere. How I initiate this, or how I usually share it in the beginning with people, is I liken it to sending out invitations. Invitations, come to the party. Sending out invitations to parts of the body to come back alive, to let their felt presence be felt. Now look, I'm not creating those sensations. They're here. They're available, all the time. If, I invite them to let their felt presence be felt. And then what I do immediately, and this to me is very important as well for this transition into this more open dimension. I greet their acceptance of the invitation with a gesture of loving letting go and relaxation. Tibetan Mahamudra teacher, seminal teacher Tilopa, the whole of the practice is just about relaxing, awakening, relaxed shimmer through the body. So look, just invite the sensations in your cranium just to come present. There they are. Exactly that. You don't have to try to make them this way or stop them from being that way. They're just here. Kind of strange, but something is there, right? And as soon as they make their presence felt, they offer up something for you to relax, just let go. Okay? The whole of the face. Yeah, sensations. Just relaxing, right? Relaxing through the cranium. Okay, add the neck and the throat. Okay, the shoulders, right? down the arms, right into the hands, into the fingers. Sensations in every finger. Now look, we're not sitting here like fence posts or stone garden statues of the Buddha. Even just starting off with Swedenborg's vision of the purpose of breath. Everything is moving. It lengthens, it extends on the inhalation, it shortens on the exhalation. And within this kind of spontaneous allowance of motion, send out the invitations. The whole area, your chest, your back. So it's interesting now, especially when we get down to, say, the chest, the diaphragm, the belly, well, really it's the whole body, but to relax as an offering to the sensation that risked, letting its felt presence be felt. It's not just a letting go. This kind of could occur up in my cranium, through my face. Okay. Also has to do with the breath. Okay, we go right into our rib cage. How can I let go, relax the awakened sensations? Well, whoa, the rib cage, just like the spine isn't a temple, a column in a Roman temple, the rib cage is not a suit of medieval armor. Down, lower torso, belly and legs. So these are two key plays here in this transition into what I refer to as this mystical awakening, this altogether natural birthright state that every one of us has. As I breathe, everything moves. As I breathe, there is this emergence of feeling awareness. It's vibratory, it's shimmery. Playing here. Again, the third and the final thing I'm going to suggest that we play with is that as you have those two going, more motion in the breath. And look, this is your first time doing this, you're probably going to find places in your spine that don't move, or areas you can't feel anything. This is very valuable information because this is what we want to bring to life, okay? But we're breathing. There's this feeling presence that's starting to come through. Now open your eyes. Open your eyes. And keep your eyes soft. Keep your face soft. Continue to breathe and feel. Now look, ordinarily, how we look, we bring so much tension into the cranium, right into the eyes. Oh my goodness. I have this wacky thing that Zoom does. Okay. That's the antithesis of this relaxing and letting go to awaken the body that will allow the breath that Rumi's referring to, that the Buddha is referring to, just to be natural. It's just letting go. It's actually a lot simpler than it may seem. You just give yourself permission. So my eyes come open instead of peering out at my eyes, or through my eyes, out at whatever it is that I'm looking out on. Okay? Instead of that, no, I'm just going to stay with this awakened feeling presence. Relax. So relaxed. So easy. What I love about this, it's so deeply relaxed. It feels good, and that to me is being loving and kind to myself. Not this sitting tight and rigid. I let go at the onset of every inhalation, and it seems like a loving and kind gesture. Now then suddenly there's the visual field. Instead of narrowing in on something, Look at, we're experiencing the whole of the body. We're surrendering in a way to the whole of an awakened breath. Just let the whole of the visual field be here. Unified field, roughly elliptical. See the whole thing all at once. Just let it be here. You're not trying to make anything magical happen. You just let the visual field be here exactly as it is. While you're so relaxing the eyes, you're so maybe passing your awareness through the body, inviting sensation to awaken, relaxing. So opening to this breath that keeps moving, constantly moving. Something starts happening, awakened body, visual field, they start, I don't know, there's a kind of merging, a joining. Rumi says, don't look through the eyes of your head. In other words, with this narrow vision. He says, see with the eyes of the awakened soul. And for him, very body-oriented, Rumi, the awakened soul occurs when body comes alive in sensation and breath. So when we see from this alternate place, oh, I'm feeling my body, breath is moving, something happens. Visual field can be experienced as no longer just representing objects in the world of form out there, but as something that merges with the sensations of the body. Oh, and this breath that keeps everything moving, keeps this joining occurring. Okay, it's almost as though everything relaxes so much in my cranium. Remember I was talking earlier, we're going to talk about the cranium. Relaxes here that the visual field just kind of goes right through me. It's really weird, huh? But altogether natural and extremely, extremely comfortable. And when the sensations of the body become like a mirror, and they kind of join with every little pixel of the visual field. Okay? The joining, no longer separate, the wholeness coming in. And what's maintaining it? This constant motion. Through the breath. That is what occurs entirely naturally when we give ourselves permission to just soften, relax, let go, and frankly, really deeply start loving ourselves. So remember, I had mentioned earlier about David Bohm. His shorthand buzz phrase for how the universe is constructed, he called it an undivided wholeness of flowing motion. And in many ways, I feel what I've been sharing here with you today are, as I say in the current parlance, the young people that I work with, they call these physiological hacks. Playing with breath, realizing that, I could start exploring a breath that altogether naturally breathes through more and more of my body. I can shift gears from a mind that thinks into, a body that there's feeling presence, a whole dimension of feeling. I can so soften around my eyes that when I open them, the visual field can slowly just start going right into and through me. It's as though the I in me disappears and the dissolving into union, almost magically and lusciously, it's very delicious, just starts emerging. So, I think back again to my uncle's initial visit. That's what launched it all for me. It was my first time I'd ever heard about concepts of mystical awakening, of a consciousness of union. And, my life really has been a play of exploring that. I had to. Once I got a sniff of a taste of what this shift, this transformation is, I realized that for me, resisting the letting go, just the natural ease, hurts too much. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity to, in a sense, let me come full circle from my first opening into the possibility of something else going on for human being. Came through my conversations with my Uncle Lester. And here, we are today realizing that so much of what I've been exploring, it makes me realize how concordant it is with some of your, fundamental understandings and beliefs. So thank you, everybody. I very much enjoyed doing this. Take care.